Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're tackling something that's been called the eighth wonder of the world, compounding.
Oh, yeah, compounding. It's incredible.
Yeah, and you know what's wild? We actually found this awesome story in an episode of the Wealth Wave podcast, and it really brings this whole concept to life.
It's amazing how much power there is in consistent long-term growth.
Exactly. And it's so easy to underestimate. So in this Wealth Wave episode, they talk about this guy named John, totally average guy.
Okay.
And he inherited $5,000 back in 1980 when he was 25 years old.
Interesting.
Now, $5,000, it's not like, win the lottery money, but it's not nothing, right?
Right.
But here's the thing. He didn't just spend it. He decided to invest it.
Oh, smart move. Where did he put it?
You put it into an S&P 500 index fund. Have you ever messed around with index funds at all?
Yeah, index funds are a great way to get exposure to the stock market without having to pick individual stocks. They're like baskets of stocks that track a specific market index, like the
Okay.
S&P 500, which is made up of 500 of the largest U.S. companies.
Exactly. So it's considered a pretty low-risk way to invest, right?
Yeah, definitely lower risk than picking individual stocks because you're spreading your money across a whole bunch of companies.
Makes sense. So John, he puts his $5,000 into this S&P 500 index fund, and he pretty much just forgets about it for 40 years.
Wow, 40 years.
Yeah. No trying to time the market, no panicking when things went down. He just let it sit.
Must have had some nerves of steel, so what happened?
Get this. By 2020, that $5,000 had grown to over $1 million.
No way. That's the power of compounding in action.
I know, right? It's incredible. But how does it actually work? I mean, how does $5,000 turn into $1 million just by sitting there?
It's like you ever roll a snowball down a hill?
Sure.
It starts small, but as it rolls, it picks up more and more snow, right? Gets bigger and bigger, faster and faster. That's compounding.
Okay, I get the snowball analogy, but break it down for me in terms of John's investment.
Sure. So the S&P 500 has historically returned an average of about 10% per year. Now, obviously, past performance doesn't guarantee future returns, but let's use that as an example.
Okay.
So in year one, John's $5,000 grows by 10%, which turns it into $5,500. Not bad for doing absolutely nothing, right?
Not bad at all. But I guess it's not $1 million either.
True. But here's where the magic happens. The next year, he earns another 10%, but now it's calculated on $5,500, not the original $5,000. So each year, the amount he earns grows bigger and bigger.
Oh, I see. So it's like the growth itself is generating more growth.
Exactly. It keeps building on itself. By year 10, his investment has almost tripled to $13,000.
Wow.
By year 20, it's over $33,000. And by year 40, well, you know the end of the story.
$1 million. So this all sounds amazing, but is it really possible for anyone to make this kind of money?
Well, that's the cool part. It's not about starting with a ton of money. The real key is time.
So John's success wasn't about getting rich quick. It was about patience.
Exactly. He let time do the heavy lifting, and that's something anyone can do.
So even if I don't have thousands of dollars to invest right now, I can still benefit from compounding.
Absolutely. Let's say you start investing just $200 a month at age 25 in a similar index fund, earning, say, 8% a year.
Okay, I'm listening.
By the time you hit 65, you'd have over $700,000.
Seriously.
Yeah. And get this, only $96,000 of that is from your actual contributions. The rest is pure profit thanks to compounding.
That's mind-blowing. So even small, regular investments can add up big time.
Exactly. Every dollar you invest has the potential to multiply itself many times over as long as you give it enough time to grow.
Okay, I'm definitely starting to see the power of this. But don't most people wait way longer to start investing, like until they're much older?
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people do. And that's really a missed opportunity because the earlier you start, the more time your money has to compound.
Right, so it's like the biggest advantage you can have is starting young.
Exactly. But it's never too late to start. The important thing is to start now and to be consistent. Even if you can only invest a little bit, it will make a difference in the long run.
All right, so let's say I'm sold. What are like the top 3 things I need to do to make this compounding thing work for me?
Great question. First, start early. We've talked about that. Time is your best friend. Second, be consistent. Make investing a habit, like brushing your teeth. You can even automate it so you don't have to think about it.
Automated, I like that. Takes the pressure off. What's the third thing?
Patience. Don't freak out when the market dips. It's normal. Just remember, compounding works best over the long term. Think marathon, not sprint.
Got it. Start early, be consistent, and be patient. Sounds pretty simple, actually.
It is. And that's the beauty of it. It's not about being a financial genius. It's about making smart choices and letting time work its magic.
Okay, but I have to ask, is it really as simple as just throwing some money in an index fund and waiting? Is there anything else we should be thinking about?
You bring up a good point. Of course, there's more to it than that. Things like diversifying your investments and figuring out how much risk you're comfortable with. And your strategy might change as you get closer to retirement.
Right, that makes sense.
But for today, we really wanted to focus on this fundamental idea of compounding and how it can work for anyone, no matter how much money they have.
I think we've definitely done that. And honestly, I'm feeling way more optimistic about my financial future now. But I have a question. Is compounding just about money? Can this principle be applied to other areas of life?
That's a great question, and the answer is a resounding yes. Compounding isn't limited to just finances. It's a universal principle that applies to any area of life where consistent effort and time can lead to exponential growth.
Ooh, that's interesting. Like what? Can you give us some examples?
Absolutely. Imagine learning a new language. At first, it might seem like you're making slow progress, but with regular practice, you'll start to see significant improvements. It's like each new word you learn builds upon the previous one, creating this snowball effect of knowledge.
So it's like with each word you learn, you're not just adding to your vocabulary, you're also making it easier to learn even more words in the future.
Exactly. And it's not just languages. The same thing applies to music, sports, anything you're trying to learn or improve. Every little bit of effort you put in today makes it easier to put in more effort tomorrow.
I never thought of it like that before. So it's almost like we all have this hidden compounding superpower, but we often forget to use it.
You got it. It's all around us, quietly working its magic. But once you understand the principle, you start to see the world differently. You start to appreciate the value of small, consistent actions, and you become more intentional about the choices you make.
So it's not just about letting your money grow. It's about letting everything grow, your knowledge, your skills, even your relationship.
Exactly. It's about having a long-term perspective and trusting that those small, consistent actions will compound over time, just like John's $5,000 investment.
This is really making me think. I can't wait to explore how we can apply this compounding concept to different parts of our lives.
I'm excited to dive into that with you too. I think our listeners are going to love this.
So it sounds like compounding is more than just some financial trick. It's this underlying principle of growth that applies to so many parts of life.
Absolutely. It's about understanding that those small actions we take consistently over time, they can lead to really incredible results. Think of it like building a house.
Okay.
Each brick might seem small and insignificant on its own,
Right?
but together they create something strong and lasting.
I love that. So we've talked about investing money, but what about something like learning a new language? How does compounding come into play there?
Great example. Let's say you commit to learning, I don't know, 5 new words in a language every day.
Okay, 5 words.
Might not seem like a lot,
No.
but after a year, that's over 1,800 new words.
Wow. That's actually a lot.
It is, right. And it's not just about the vocabulary. As you learn more words, you naturally start to understand the grammar better, the sentence structure. You can even start to have basic conversations.
Right. Each new piece of knowledge builds on the one before it.
Exactly. It's like a snowball effect. The more you learn, the easier it becomes to learn even more. You start making connections and things just click.
So it's like those first few words, those are the initial investment. And then each new word you learn is like a return on that investment, making you more fluent.
Precisely. And the more you learn, the bigger those returns become. It's that snowball effect in action, gaining more and more momentum as it rolls.
I love that analogy. And it's not just about languages either, right? This applies to any skill you want to develop.
Any skill at all. Want to learn a musical instrument, a new sport, coding? The principle is the same. Consistent effort over time leads to huge growth.
This is making me rethink how I approach learning new things. I always get discouraged if I don't see results right away, but maybe I need to shift my thinking, focus more on the long game.
I think that's a really important point. We live in a world that's obsessed with instant gratification.
It's true.
But mastering something truly worthwhile takes time. Dedication. It's about enjoying the process, knowing that those small efforts will pay off big time in the end.
It's like building a muscle, right? You don't get ripped after just one workout. It takes time and consistency. But I think this goes even deeper than just building skills. I feel like this compounding idea applies to relationships too, doesn't it?
You're absolutely right. Relationships are a powerful example of compounding in action. Think about it. Every act of kindness, every conversation, every moment you share, it builds on what came before it, strengthening that bond between two people.
So it's not just about grand gestures. It's about those small, everyday interactions that, over time, really add up.
Exactly. Being present, listening, offering support, just showing appreciation. Those things might seem small in the moment, but they can totally transform a relationship over time.
It's like weaving a tapestry. Each thread might seem insignificant on its own, but together, they create this beautiful, intricate piece of art.
What a beautiful way to put it. And this doesn't just apply to romantic relationships, friendships, family, even professional connections. The same principle holds true. Consistent positive interaction over time leads to stronger, more meaningful relationships.
I'm starting to see how compounding is this universal principle. It's not just about finances, it's about life.
It's about understanding that every choice we make, even the small ones, has an impact that ripples out into the future. We're constantly investing in ourselves and our relationships, whether we realize it or not. And the quality of those investments determines the returns we get.
This is all really thought-provoking. But it can be a little overwhelming to think about making consistent effort in all these different areas of life. Where do we even begin?
Great question. The key is to start small. Focus on one thing at a time. Pick one habit, one skill, one relationship that you want to work on, and make a commitment to consistent effort.
So kind of like building a portfolio of positive habits and investments, one piece at a time.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about progress. Don't get discouraged if you slip up or miss a day. The important thing is to get back on track and keep moving forward.
This is really helpful. But a lot of people, myself included, we tend to be impatient. We want to see those results now. And when we don't, we get frustrated and give up too easily. How do we overcome that impatience and stay focused on the bigger picture?
That's a challenge for sure. I think the best way to combat that is to cultivate a mindset of delayed gratification.
Okay.
Remind yourself that you're playing the long game. Those small actions, they may not seem like much in the moment, but over time, they'll add up to something truly remarkable. Think of it like planting a seed.
Okay.
You don't see the fruit right away, but if you nurture it, water it consistently,
Yeah.
eventually it grows into a beautiful, strong tree.
I love that analogy. So it's really about trusting the process
Yeah.
and knowing that those small, consistent efforts will eventually bear fruit.
Exactly. It's about believing in the power of compounding and letting it work its magic.
This has been so eye-opening. I'm literally starting to see the world through a compounding lens now.
I love that. And remember, compounding isn't just about achieving external success. It's about growth from within, becoming a better version of yourself, deepening your relationships, living a more fulfilling life.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into the magic of compounding, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this?
I think the most important takeaway is this. Small, consistent actions, when multiplied by time, lead to incredible results. Whether it's your money, your skills, your relationships, embrace the power of compounding, and you'll be amazed by what you can achieve.
Such a powerful message. Thanks so much for sharing your insights with us.
My pleasure. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this journey. We hope you've gained some valuable insights that you can apply to your own life.
That's right. Now let's move on to the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some concrete examples of how to harness the power of compounding in different areas of your life. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the theory of compounding, but I think our listeners are probably wondering how to actually use this in their everyday lives.
Yeah, let's get practical.
Yeah.
First things first, think about your goals.
Goals, okay?
What do you want to achieve in the next year, 5 years, even 10 years down the line?
Could be anything, really.
Exactly. Writing a book, starting a business, learning to play an instrument, improving your relationships, anything that's important to you.
Got it. Set some goals. Then what?
Then break those big goals down into smaller, manageable steps. Remember, consistency is key with compounding.
Right. Small, consistent actions.
Instead of trying to do everything at once, focus on taking small steps every single day.
So instead of saying, I'm going to learn Spanish, I might say, I'm going to learn 5 new Spanish words every day.
Perfect example. Or instead of, I'm going to write a novel, you could start with, I'm going to write 500 words every day. Make it achievable, something you can stick with.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those days when I just don't feel like it? Life gets busy, motivation fades. How do you stay consistent even when it's tough?
That's where discipline comes in. And one of the best ways to build discipline is to make it as easy as possible to stick to your new habit.
Okay, how do you do that?
Schedule it into your day, set reminders, eliminate distractions, maybe even find an accountability partner.
So, like, if I wanted to meditate every day, I could set a reminder on my phone, find a quiet spot, and maybe even ask a friend to meditate with me.
Exactly. The more you can automate the process and remove those obstacles, the easier it'll be to stick with it. And remember, don't beat yourself up if you miss a day or two. Just get back on track and keep going.
This is great advice. But I think a lot of people, myself included, get impatient. We want to see those results right away. And when we don't, we give up too easily. How do we overcome that impatience and stay focused on the long term?
That's a really common struggle, and I think the best way to combat that is to really cultivate a mindset of delayed gratification.
Delayed gratification.
Remind yourself that you're playing the long game here. Those small actions might not seem like much in the moment, but trust me, over time they'll compound and create amazing results.
So it's like planting a seed. You don't see the fruit right away,
Yeah.
but with consistent care, it will eventually grow into a beautiful tree.
Exactly. And just like a tree needs time to mature, so do our goals and aspirations. Be patient, trust the process, and keep making those small, consistent investments in yourself.
I love that analogy. This whole conversation has been so eye-opening. I'm starting to see the world in a completely different way now.
I'm so glad to hear that. And remember, compounding isn't just about achieving those external goals and successes.
Right.
It's also about internal growth, becoming the best version of yourself, deepening your relationships, and ultimately living a more fulfilling life.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the magic of compounding, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
Here it is. Small, consistent actions multiplied by time lead to extraordinary results. Whether it's your money, your skills, your relationships, embrace this power of compounding, and I promise you, you'll be amazed by what you can achieve.
That's a powerful message. Thanks for sharing your insights with us today. It's been a real pleasure.
It's been my pleasure, too. And to everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it valuable and that you can apply these principles to your own life. And until next time, keep learning, keep growing,